Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming. We're going to start, as usual, with the prayers by way of consciously renewing our refuge and bodhicitta, the right intent, and listening to the teachings itself is a very meritorious practice. Specifically, if we reason and think and relate and make them relevant in our situations, and then try to apply them in our mind, and then within that very teaching, listening, our mind can shift, and so it's not like the some monkeys when they go feeding in a spree, they just eat, they just put all here, and then they go later on on the tree and then regurgitate eating. Sometimes listening seems to be like that, isn't it? Sometimes if you learn to regurgitate and eat, it's good, but sometimes we don't have time to regurgitate, we just stuff. So it's good to bring your thinking regime and reasoning regime within the teachings. Also, when you're reciting the prayers, for that matter, there's a lot of refreshing happening. Sometimes you can glimpse some things you never thought when you were saying that sometime before. But when your mind is super geared and properly engaged, it just sometimes there's amazing kind of revelations in that conscious saying, thinking, and reasoning in the prayers. So we'll do the refuge first of all. O Zanje Jadan Zoje Jonala Janjo Barda Dane Jazaje Dage Jenye Jeba Ende Dage Nala Benja Zanje Ndrabajo Zanje Jadan Zoje Jonala Janjo Barda Dane Jazaje Dage Jenye Jeba Ende Dage Nala Benja Zanje Ndrabajo. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of listening to this teaching, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all living beings. Semje damje dewa da de ju da de ambara ju je donga da donga je ju da da wara ju je donga me be da me ra wa ju je nere ja da nye da da nya la ne bara ju je. May all living beings have happiness and a cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separated from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings live attachment, hatred towards near ones afar by living with equanimity. May all living beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separated from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings live attachment and hatred towards near ones afar by living with equanimity. Back to page 1. Praise to Manjushri. I pay homage to Guru and Lord Arya Manjushri. Your intelligence shines forth like the sun, unclouded by the two obscurations. You hold the scripture text in your heart, symbolic of the seeing of all things as they are. Those who are caught in the prison of samsara are confused in the darkness of ignorance and are overwhelmed by their suffering. In 60 ways, through this speech, you teach migratory beings to whom you are compassionate only child. Your proclamation of Dharma is like roaring thunder, which awakens beings from the stupor of delusions and frees us from the iron chains of our karma. You were the sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever its sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. Primordially pure, Your princely body is the embodiment of the perfection of the Bodhisattva dwelling on the 10th Bhumi. I pay homage to Manjushri, who dispels my darkness, ignorance, and whose body is adorned by 112 marks of a Buddha. With the brilliance of your wisdom, O compassionate one, illuminate darkness, ignorance, enclosing my mind, enlighten my intelligence, wisdom, so that I may gain insight into Buddha's truth and text that explain them. Omara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Omara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Omara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Omara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Omara Bazana Diamara 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 Omara Bazana Diamara 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 Omara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Diamara Bazana Omara Bazana So we now do the Heart Sutra in English on page 5. To the perfection of wisdom, the Blessed Mother, I pay homage. Thus I've heard at one time, Blessed One Bhagavan was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with the great assembly of Sangha and great assembly of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in samadhi and elimination of phenomena called the profound elimination. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, Superior Avalokitesha, was contemplating the meaning of the profound perfection of wisdom, and saw the 5 aggregates also empty of inherent existence. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Buddha said to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Superior Avalokitesha, how should a son or daughter or good lineage train who wishes practice profound perfection wisdom? And thus he spoke, and the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Superior Avalokitesha, said this to Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good lineage wishes to practice profound perfection wisdom should view in this way. They should correctly view those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent existence. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, and form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition factors, consciousness are empty. And Shariputra, in the same way, all phenomena are merely empty, that is without characteristic. They are not created, they do not cease, they have no impurity. They are not devoid of impurity, they do not decrease and increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition factor, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no tongue, no body, no mind, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no phenomena. There is no eye element and so forth, no mind element, mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so forth, no aging and no exhaustion, aging, and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, no path, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because Bodhisattvas have no attainment, they depend on and abide in the perfection of wisdom, because their minds are without obstruction, they are without fear. Having completely passed beyond all error, they go to completion nirvana. All the Buddhas abide in 3 times, having relied on the perfection of wisdom, became manifestly perfect Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, mantra of perfection of wisdom is the mantra of great knowledge, unsurpassed mantra, mantra equal to the unequal, mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering. Because it is not false, it should be known as the truth. Mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Gade gade bara zanga bodhisattva. Tadia da o gade bara zanga bodhisattva. Tadia da o gade bara zanga bodhisattva. Tadia da o gade bara zanga bodhisattva. Tadia da engade bara zanga de bodhisattva. Tadyada mangade ngade bara ngade bara zangade bodhiso. Tadyada mangade ngade bara ngade bara zangade bodhiso. Tadyada mangade ngade bara ngade bara zangade bodhiso. Tadyada ngade ngade bara ngade bara zangade bodhiso. Tadyada mangade ngade bara ngade bara zangade bodhiso. Tadyada mangade ngade bara ngade bara zangade bodhiso. Tadyada ngade ngade bara ngade bara zangade bodhiso. Tadyada ngade ngade bara ngade bara zangade bodhiso. Tadyada mangade 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 ngade bara ngade bara zangade bodhiso. Tadyada ngade ngade bara ngade bara zangade bodhiso. Shariputra Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in profound perfection of wisdom in that way. That the Blessed One had been thrown from the Samadhi and said this Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Superior Avalokiteshvara, well done, well done, well done, well done. Good lineage, it is just so. One a good lineage, it is like that. The profound perfection should be practiced just as you have taught. Even the Tathagatas very joyous in this. The Blessed One having so spoken, Venerable Shariputra Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Superior Avalokiteshvara, and all those gathered there, and those who, gods, humans, and demigods, Gandharvas filled with admiration and praised the words of Blessed Buddha. We are learning to think differently, learning to interpret more wisely, and therefore make our mind a little bit more useful, so that whatever we see or hear are not just accepted on the appearance value, but they're mainly investigated and screened by our own reasoning. And hence, when Nagarjuna wrote this long letter consisting of many Mahayanist principles to King Gautamiputra, his very intention was to help the king, not to do everything from where he sees or where he hears. Whoever tells him, reports him, not let them influence his opinion, but rather himself have a little bit of more awareness, how to go about not being, or influence one way or another too much without using his own intelligence. So therefore we reached now to the 4th chapter. We concluded the first 3 chapters. Particularly the 3rd chapter was on various compendium of collection of required to achieve enlightenment, because at the very beginning it talked about what constitute the 32 great distinctive signs of an enlightened Buddha's body. And so then it's talking about what are the enlightening things you have to do, meritorious things to gain that state of enlightenment. Now this 4th chapter, the topic is called royal policy, how the king himself should conduct as a king of the land. This is exactly what I was saying, so that he doesn't get too influenced by his advisors or instigators or somebody. It's only for people in a powerful position. Usually, they don't really get to know, except for those people who feed them information. And often people think that's what is happening. In those days, they didn't have media, fake or otherwise. They only had the royal informers who usually have their own agenda. So Buddha's writing, the Nagarjuna writing, is to influence the king to think more clearly without swayed by too kind of politically sort of bias against biased things. So therefore, this is, of course, these are advice to a king, but of course we should regard them as also advice to us from our own point of view. So this chapter 4 is an advice to train the king himself in flawlessly, how to do not dare to chide the king, but not just making the king feel he's important, but also if the king is someone who should also think that he's not above everything what people say or what is the rule, but he should also have some kind of fitness and humility to listen to someone like whoever that may be, but not just listen to everything, but listen to others as well, and so that one is more informed. He says, monarchs who do what is against the practices and senseless are mostly praised. In the old days, people just praised the kings, even they did awful things. They say, "Oh, you're royalty, you're so good," and there's quite a few people are around the royal just to keep their job, I suppose. So it's like, So they don't realize that some of the things the king or powerful people do are not necessarily worthy of praise. So monarchs who do what is against the practices, if they are praised by the citizens, for it is hard to know what will and will not be tolerated. Hence, it is hard to know what is useful or not to say. So that's why ordinary people don't have the kind of ability to withdraw certain comments or being able to say something that may be otherwise necessary, because they are often swayed by the power or role or command of the king or powerful person. Some people don't say because they're afraid of the position that he holds. Some people praise him because he has so much power that therefore if he doesn't say, they might not fare a good chance. So Nagarjuna is making the king know that even those who are praising you, don't think that the praise they're giving actually warrants the praise. You actually, maybe not warrant those praises, So don't take literally what everybody says. Even if they praise you, you shouldn't be puffed up and think that you are great or something. Sometimes it may have their own hidden agenda to intention to praise you, or just making you feel look like someone who doesn't have intelligence oneself. I suppose in many ways that's true to individuals in our life as well. Maybe sometimes people are too biased. They praise, They praise because they're biased. Some people criticize because they're angry. They are not happy something about themselves, and then therefore they say awful things. And often we don't know that. We think it's something really to do with the person they're talking about. And actually it's not much about the person. It's their own discontentment, their own attachment, their own, their own, if they say they love somebody, they say amazing things, If they hate it, they say just as opposite, So one extreme to another, So it doesn't say much about the person. It says about the people themselves. So if you are a king who is easily enticed by that, you probably wouldn't perform your royal duties because you'd be caught up in these hollow praises, or you'd be upset by the bad criticism about one minister by another, and you think, don't realize he's plotting against them. Yeah, so that exists in actually a lot of family relations too, or any kind of circles of friends. Sometimes people are swayed by what he said and they quickly overreact. They have no idea where they're coming from. They never even checked the subject. And then they get sort of pushed away by this storm of negativities. If useful, but unpleasant words are hard to speak to anyone else. What could I, a monk, say to you, a king who is Lord of the great earth? So Nagarjuna, if you really want to give you a really useful advice, even though you need to say something that the person really need to, you don't know how to use these words because you think it may hurt them or something, and then end up not really giving your really useful remarks, just out of what they call constructive criticism, a friend might do that. He really want to say that, but he doesn't get swayed by people. But this is what I hear people say. But what is this really happening? At least you give him a fair chance to have his say. But no, completely. You believe what they say, which is cause full of spite or scorn or anger. You can see it's very much deluded. You can see, but we don't realize. So he says, I am just a monk, How can I say unpleasant words to a king? That may be useful to say to you, but because you are the one who's above the law, above the sort of everybody, maybe I shouldn't. So in many ways, he just hastens himself. Of course, he knows he's already written 300 verses, so he's been reading that far. So he knows more is coming, more is coming. But he's just modestly saying, because of my affection for you, it's like this is a good thing to do, Say if one of us. Say we heard somebody saying terrible things about one of us, so it's almost like, and then if we completely believe that, and we completely drop our own friendship or respect and love or affection, then we completely become influenced by that, and then that's exactly what will be influenced. But instead, if he say, look, I'm a monk, but out of affection, I want to come and clarify myself this with you before believing all this heresy, before believing all this accusation, before believing all these things. That's what it's talking about, how the royal policy, because of my affection for you and from compassion for all beings who might be exactly saying opposite or either this way or that way, however variously they may be have opinions about the subject and a concern, I tell you without hesitation, that which is useful but unpleasant, So he says, in Tibetan we have a saying, "Shatse kala tamnye me," Shatse kala means into the mouth of one who cares for you, speaks to you no pleasant words. Usually mothers and parents always like this. Looks like she's always after you, but actually she loves you. So therefore, if I'm saying something here, that's what Nagarjuna said. If I'm saying something to you without hesitation, it's because I care about you. Of course. Otherwise, of course, if I don't care, I act as though I love you or respect you. In the meantime, you let this kind of heresy, the people are talking against the king, go kind of corrected. So if I'm telling you this, and this is because I care about you, and so therefore, please, listen to these humble monks. Useful words. He says he's saying useful words, but it may seem unpleasant to your royal ears because maybe you may used to be hearing all the otherwise. Because the supermundane victor said, this is supermundane victor refers to the Buddha, the Buddha, enlightened one. So now Nagarjuna himself, having sort of modestly said this is a simple monk, he says, I'm saying these useful words not as something original of my knowledge, but based on the sayings and teachings of the supermundane victor, that's referred to the Buddha, said that students are to be told. Students of the disciple or student are to be told the reality, gentle, meaningful, salutary, at the proper time and from compassion. That's why you are being told all this. He says that all of this, enlightened one has said that those who are learning from oneself should be told, because king is learning from Nagarjuna. He said they should tell them gently and meaningfully, and still with respect, still without losing the respect. One may have to say it, but still out of respect, still courtesy, but say it meaningfully what need to say it, but say it very gently, at a proper time, not too early, not too late, people usually do the exact opposite, At the very moment they are upset or they're agitated by others, they also just on top of that, they also throw a bucket of kerosene, and so no compassion, no gentleness, no respect. It's all complete overreaction. Not proper time, no compassion there, anger, just like they were instigated. So they're doing exactly what the spiteful people intended them to do. So they become so hijacked because they don't have much brain between the two ears, I don't know where it is. So, completely spur of the moment. That's called idle talk is like that. People are so, by bad-mouthing, people believe most of the time. If some good happened, they almost unbelieve the good things. It's bad? Oh, everybody, that's true. And they might even put little wings on it, make it fly. The world is so thriving on negativities. So that's what they do these things. So enlightened one said that it should be done exactly opposite. This is why you are being told all this. What are the things that you need to be told? Is, steadfast one. So this is, see, that's respect. He says, you're a very steadfast king, So he's with respect, So he has not lost but his respect. He still know that this steadfast king can do a lot more work that he as a king can do than nobody else. When true words are spoken without belligerence, they should be taken as fit to be heard, like water fit for bathing, So so therefore, even I may say some words that may be difficult to listen here. He says, but there, when you're bathing, you don't bathe because you really like to feel cold, You probably don't. I don't know why we have warm shower, because before it start cold shower, if they could have cold shower, that was enough, You remember there was a time you never had hot shower, no matter how cold the water is, people will still take shower, not because they like the cold, but they need to be washed. So he says, my speaking these words is to wash. It's not for you to temporarily make your ear enjoy the praise and nice, sweet talking. They call flattery. He says, So this is for the sake of bathing. Just like the water is used to wash, to bathe, not to make you feel cold. Even though you may feel cold, you still put up with the cold. So he says, please listen to me, what I'm going to say, because they may be very fittingly necessary for you to pay heed to, and it probably will be very helpful. If you listen to some useful advice from someone to yourself, it will empower you to help others. Because you would have the wisdom to extend the use of that to benefit others. A lot of people, what they call self-development, actually they do these things so that they are better with their colleagues or friends. If they were themselves, they don't need self-development courses. They try to develop themselves skills so that they can help others. So one therefore not, even if one doesn't like the criticism or like the things that are not so pleasant, one should still listen to them. If you know your friends really, really well, even the way they spoke sometimes upset your ego, but he says it's still for the sake of washing. For the sake of washing. Realize that I'm telling you what is useful here and future. So Nagarjuna is telling the king that what I'm going to telling you here is useful. So it's referred to not only during the reign of the person's reign of his king, but also when he retire, when he get an older man as elderly. And also later in the future lives. So it means this is not only for you now, but even for later on. Act on it so as to help yourself and also others. So Nagarjuna gives advice. He says, this advice I'm giving may be a bit demanding of you, may be requiring for you to take extra measure, extra care, extra selflessness, and so on. But he says, this actually will help you and to others. Why? Because I'm saying this because I genuinely care for you. I genuinely respect your work, and so on. So that I'm not giving to highlight your weaknesses. I'm giving advice so that you improve your skills and benefit others. And often when people give advice, particularly parents say this, we don't think like that. We say, why is she picking on me? They say, why is picking on me? Why are they picking on me? We don't realize they might be saying this so that we might see something that we not see otherwise. Usually that's what parents' intentions are, but and maybe their intent is like that, but they don't have wisdom to say in a very respectfully. If the mother says, my lovely darling, come here, straight away. The girl comes straight away. She feels so good because she said with a lot of respect and love, I really don't want you to do that. And then straight away, the girl would feel that the way the mother said was so sort of loving and so caring, And so what was in the middle sentence is called like a sandwich, like a sandwich between two. So it wasn't too bad on its. It would be too bad on its own, I think. You don't just eat salad by it. But if your salad sandwiches, it's okay, really. There you go, salad sandwich. This is quite good. Let's put this together. So if you say very nice, kind, respectful words at the beginning, and then say a few difficult remarks in the middle, and then towards the end, head with a little bit of reward, a little bit of bribing, with good intent, and then. That's a lot of people do. There's, the dog training does that. The dog training does that. You give him a little bit, and then he'd be very happy. As soon as you start doing that, then you don't do it. Then you make him do this and this and this. And then at the end he get a reward. And then the relationship between the dog and the owner stays very good. And they actually know exactly what will make them to pay heed, and your friendship is good, you know. This mind training is really a training of one's mind, knowing what should I do that will help myself and others. And Nagarjuna is telling of the king that I'm telling you what is useful here and in the future. Because he says, I'm relying on what I'm saying to you from the words of the enlightened ones. It's really amazing. So he says, I'm not telling this because I'm an experienced father. You know, Nagarjuna is not a father. He says, Shakyamuni Buddha was he's an enlightened father. he was a monk. Prior to that, he's a father. He was a king. So he had actually full experience of what like. So he says, I'm saying this to you, for you and benefit you and others, that. Yeah, so therefore one needs to be very, very thoughtful of your own way of doing things, because everybody's watching you. So he says, you are a king. You're the king. If you do not make contribution of the wealth for the monastics from former giving to the needy, So he's talking about the king should practice generosity. He says, if you do not make contribution of your wealth, obtained from your father and your royal inheritance, and to the needy and to the mendicants, and that through your ingratitude and attachment you will not obtain wealth in the future. He says, if you give things to the needy and people who deserve it, who are worthy of respect, who are for their knowledge or growth, then he says, your wealth that you have already you have inherited from the former, meaning your father and your forefathers and so on, and of course from everybody, because those days kings basically, took advantage from everybody, basically power, Royal monarch wasn't. That's when monarchy system was overthrown in whenever they were in many countries, except few exceptional these days. Most countries just had enough because they were inheriting wealth from the last 17th century maybe, so you're not doing any useful to it needy. He says, through your ingratitude, because if you're grateful, you will be giving them in memory of your forefathers and the people who have let you to have these things. If instead of gratitude, you are more attached to them as if you shouldn't part from them, he says, you will not obtain happiness and wealth in the future. He says, in the future you will be miserable because if you're not giving, because of your not generosity. So here, what Nagarjuna was warning him that what he's going to say, that would be hard to very, very, very unpleasant to listen, but very useful to listen. He says, you will suffer the consequences. What you have came from your forefathers, and so on. In the meantime, if you don't practice, he says, you will suffer in the future as a result of not practicing generosity. Here in the world, workers do not carry provisions for a journey unpaid. It's talking about how every person in the modern situation, everybody is like a worker, and they would not. They would not be able to carry the food or whatever they need. If they're not paid, they cannot do the work. If you're carrying a load from here to there for 200 miles, if they're not paid, they can't carry these things. But lowly beggars without payment carry to your future life. He says, but he says, if you do not practice generosity to the very subjects of yours, who are poor, who are beggars, who lives on alms, and if you didn't pay and give them necessarily, they will be your burden in your future lives. So that's like a unpaid karma now, generosity now, will make yourself to be born with a huge burden. What you give them multiplied 100 times. But if you did practice giving in this life, to the beggars or to the needy or to the poor or to the good causes, then you will be rewarded many, many, many times, many, many more times. And this is very good advice. And say people who live in very wealthy countries like we do, all the things we have is because we must have lived fairly generously in the past, and so we have the good karma to living in a world, a country of abundance. Really, there are lots of people around different parts of the world. They're just, you can tell the landscape. Look, you can see the roads, you can see the houses, you can see the people where they walk or clothes. You can see the poverty. It's just almost like a hungry ghost. It is like a hungry ghost. You can see, When we first came to Nepal from Tibet, we were only escaping from war. We weren't escaping from hunger or thirst. We never saw anybody bare feet and no clothes, no food. We never have those. People have a lot to eat, and wear. But when we arrived in Nepal, those ladies were carrying this miserable basket on their back, and they were scratching the surface of the earth, just trying to find some greeneries for their cows. There hardly any is there, but they're just digging. It's so poverty-stricken, And this is not just one home. This whole village after village, they're like that. They all still have not found any way to go that has a land that is, good soil to grow. They're all stuck there on the side of a mountain, as if they couldn't go anywhere. They don't know where to go, So she says, if you don't practice generosity now, in the future lives, you will be born in such situations. Now, Nagarjuna is talking to a king who's very, very wealthy. He's also making him to realize that in all this wealth that you have is also already a result of some kind of generosity in the past. And so you think you have earned or received from a former, it looks like they gave it to you, but actually these are kind of charity money. We call it charity money. Taxes and so on. Particularly heavy taxes, heavy levies, in those times, and the people were basically serfs, so they never were paid. They just were forced labor, and so all the king and the powerful took all these things, and not a really sort of, we call them molten bronze, If you drink molten bronze, it will burn all your internals. I don't know if it will quench anybody's thirst. So there's a charity money. If you this kind of tax from the poor subjects, heavily taxed for those poor subjects, and punishment and all the fines, you collect them, and where does the fine money go to? All the royal jewelries. They're wearing blood. They look beautiful. They all really, they're wearing sort of, like internals of people. Yeah. That's why they said don't get too caught up in acquiring a lot of jewelries and wearing these jewelries. That these jewelries are sweat and tear, and usually people fight for these. People risk their life to kiss, rob, and so on. And I have seen sisters fight over a ring, over their mother's ring, and they really have lost friendship over that ring. That kind of is a cause of discord. it should be a cause of happiness if the elder sister give it to the little one. Oh, I want you to have, my dear. This to me, mom and you are the most dearest one. Now she's left. It's you can have it. And then as soon as the young sister hears this, she will ever since that love and respect her sister's generosity, and almost like everlasting jewelry. That's everlasting jewelry. Really. But if they fought over it, that become everlasting misery and cause of real unhappiness. He says, multiply 100 times. If you did something, whatever, multiply 100 times. So Nagarjuna is, I think even this is a little bit milder form. Sometimes, some place they say it 500 times. You did something bad, it will happen 500 times to yourself. Yeah. Always be of exalted mind, and take delight in exalted deeds. So talking about the king, first encouraging him to help the poor and weak and the needy. So that's a king just looking at how to divest his filthy wealth. You wouldn't believe those. Even in Mustang we saw this palace. This is five-story palace that's 500 years old, and the village is so poor. And there was a dusty little kind of, just a mud, just a mud stacked on mud, and then bring some twigs, and then put more mud and twigs, became the roof. So because of sheer thickness, it's holding the rain, but otherwise it's not there. But the palace in the middle of all this mud kind of stacked mud is really strong and rock and big long beams. They would have transported from somewhere so far, of course, in the back of the poor subjects. And you can see all the wealth in there is all came from heavy levies. How we call it? Heavy levies, heavy levies for the fines and so on, and to put them as family heirloom and jewelries. It's just like a kor, we call it in Tibet. It's just like dirty charity money. Public money, you can call it. Probably you call it public money, isn't it? Public money, yeah. I think the world has come a long way in this amazing way to account keeping and how important the role of the account keepers are, how they are trusted officials, and they got to be according to the rules and books and the knowledge they have, and they must do it by their own duty of care of that, because doing that, it's really commendable. This kind of civilized world has a lot of virtues, where everything is taken care properly. Otherwise, it goes all in one person's pocket, and then if he decides to dispense it dispense. Otherwise, it's all stays there. It's like that kind of. Of course, it's cause of suffering. Hungry ghosts, Always be of exalted mind and take delight in exalted deeds. This is talking about devotional deeds. Do devotional deeds. This is coming from exalted action arise all effects that are exalted. So this is talking about how to train the mind in dispensing the wealth, not only for the poor, but some in extraordinarily virtues and wholesome deeds. We can call them like building temples, building bridges, and things that are really good for the people, and whatever the common collective people think is good in the community. If you build something like that, it lasts long, and it's like everybody's joy to there. Create foundation of doctrine, abodes of the three jewels. It is talking about temples, talking about temples. So it's not very auspicious we are reading this. creating foundation of the doctrine, because if there's a good organization who has a little bit of foundations, physical home, where the doctrines teach symbol of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, three jewels, and he says with glory and fame, because Buddha gem, Dharma gem, Sangha gem is very, very, whoever gets to contact them, they all become benefited, Somehow or another, everybody get benefited from that. It never go wasted by putting energy and resources to make things that represent the three jewels. That lowly kings have not conceived in their minds. Ordinary people will not try to put. Says, why I want to waste money building pyramids, or building temples, or building forbidden city. Yeah, city, but forbidden for everybody. So what's the point of it? It's a forbidden city. Sounds like a complete waste of a lot of money, isn't it? Yeah, they're all built by slavery those days. These are not public. These are not willing public's donation. This is just slavery and forced labor and heavy levies. So they are talking about, you as a king, you should create foundation of the doctrine. Foundation of doctrine means Sangha community, and that everybody, it's home for everyone. Sangha foundation of Sangha means it's a home for everyone who seeks the Dharma, and not a home owned by individual, and not a home that's registered in one person's name. A lot of the situation in modern institutions are happening like that. People thought it was all for everybody, but then they realized it was bought written and it's registered under his own name. They thought they were all giving for the charity, but then they realized it is in his own name. Yeah, then it's very difficult. Yeah, very, very difficult. And we have these similar difficulties, and not that I was associated with that, because in His Eminence monastery, His Eminence is just doing his practices all the time. But Nepal is a very backward country in many areas, but you should actually have all the temples properly registered, made out of properly sort of elected, office bearers, has to be answerable to the local government, to keeping the air record and so on, and everything's supposed to be registered as at the temple. But they have registered in the name of His Eminence's nephew, who's a king, so and he's not even a monk. He should have not been. Of course, king is a very, very innocent. He didn't even know this, And then later on, when the temple management committee, they said, look, all the monasteries should be properly registered with the properly formed things. Most of these are just relatives, families. There's half a dozen of them. And then they didn't quite put the names in their name, but they put in the uncle's name. And then, the government says, look, this temple is not even officially registered, because this is a private property. And so it's like that, And quite a few Tibetan organizations in the West like that too, because most of the Tibetan lamas, they're very old-fashioned. They don't know these things. They think that's the way to do. They don't realize it's completely wrong, and you can't be doing that. So one thing is building something. Another thing is also having it properly done, and then of course, then it becomes a foundation for the doctrine. Otherwise, it's the foundation for that family. Because the law says it goes to the king. If it's a register, then it goes under according to rules of the associations. Associations. The lowly kings have not even conceived of their minds. Yeah, some people, they never thought about the consequences of the future. So that's why the royalty, royal life, royal families collapse. Even in India, you can still see the big darbars, the big palaces. But and British came, and India is the biggest sort of democracy. They definitely overthrew them with the help of British, and otherwise it will still continue to remain a small principality ruled by a big sort of power-hungry families and dynasties, they call it, dynasties. O king, it is preferable not to create foundation of doctrine that do not stir the hairs of wealthy kings, because those centers will not become famous even after your death. So he says, of course, the things that you do, you have to see what are you creating, a foundation of the doctrine that do not stir the hair of wealthy kings. So this is just that doesn't inspire the kings. They say, who want to build a foundation for that? Some do because they're so noble-minded. They say, what's the point of having this much wealth? And when the poor and others need that, others will be inspired to do that. Others, some will not. Because they might think, what would be the benefit of this after my death, type of thing. If I make the bastion strong and wealthy and strong, at least the people will rejoice. This is he left it there all for us, type of thing. He says people might be thinking. Through your great exaltation, use even all your wealth, such that the exalted become free from pride. He says, if you give something, use something, you don't show to make yourself arrogant as a monument or something, as some kind of achievement. Then it will bad motivation. If the motivation is wrong, you're seeking the pride and respect to you because of pride, because of this intention. The equals become delighted, and the inclination lowlies are reversed. So he says, if you do all of this properly, then even those people who may be rivals to you, equals meaning, they also will delight. Oh, he gave this away. He did that for the people, or poor, or temple, or bridge, or whatever. People will rejoice that in a long time. And your competitors will not be angry with you, not be jealous of you, and even the kind of a jealousy and the other kind of coveting mind of the lowly people who don't have, they actually covet and they're jealous. But if you did that, it will be reversed. It will be reversed because it's almost like it's given to everybody, because because such a temple or such a thing, quite a lot of people do that. I know someone. She bought so many very expensive Buddhist statues from Nepal, and old ones. She's a really wealthy Jewish lady. Her husband isn't really interested in Buddhism, but he doesn't mind whatever she buys because he's a QC and she's a QC's wife. So QC's wife uses QC's money, and then she's herself really like following Dharma, very, very intently for first 10 years. I couldn't believe how much she spent money and how much she traveled to India and so. Later on, sort of, she had her enthusiasm all faded, She thought Dharma will just make her enlightened in one lifetime. Something. So later on, neither of her children want to follow her way. She thought, even though she was a good mother, but she couldn't, because one of the daughter got really sick, and so on and so forth, and she thought the refuge wasn't working for her. She misinterpreted refuge. She thought refuge will help her daughter to be well and not free, having any sickness, and so go all these nice things, but actually the real karma of individuals is still ripen. In the end, she doesn't want to. Of course, her husband never wanted the statues in the first place. So But she doesn't want to give these statues to even to any of the temples. So she donated to Art Gallery of New South Wales with the big name of her name. It was engraved on the bottom of the statue. Yeah, maybe it's better to give there than not to any. But still. So it's like sometimes you think you are creating some religious things, but actually, when one's inspiration becomes short-lived, and then all of a sudden, because these are consecrated statues, they should actually go to a temple or somewhere. But no, it's just sitting in a hallway in a galleries. Still, it's still useful because she thinks it will be there always. At least you can see that. So maybe people need to get this kind of advice that it should go. Maybe she still believes that's the best place to go because it's a public kind of thing and enjoyed by everybody, hopefully. But Buddhists do not regard these things as a wealth. These are consecrated objects. These are religious objects. You should go to a place where people will use it as a devotional object, if possible. Anyway, so this here is it's preferable to do things. He says. So that's even lowly people their jealousy or their envy will be reversed if you did something such a wonderful cause. If you did that, having let go of all possession, at death, powerless, you must go elsewhere. He says, if you let go of all the possessions. Or even you don't let go and possess. You still have to go without any of them anyway. You can't take any of them, and not even a spoon, not even a needle, I suppose. You can't take even a single hair, I'm told. But all that has been used for the doctrine precedes you. It will be there waiting for you, as a merit. So if you create good karma, it's just talking about merit, talking about create merit. If you did these things, and then the merit of this will not go wasted. The things that are meant to be useful for people will continue to do and as a good karma you create for the doctrine is inexhaustible merit. Because it doesn't exhaust the merit, you will still be blessed with certain concordant experiential karma or concordant habitual karma. You will still bless with generosity next time. You never have to think where you're going to get it next, but what you have, you really put it in some good use, and that therefore kind of repeat the goodness, because one gift, there's a gift of a gift, so double the merit. Whereas if we keep the gift and then we don't use it to give to others, then it just if it did any good thing with us, that's about it. Then it is not doing. But if that gift goes to change hands, then it actually doubles the merit, And actually that should be the attitude. Everything what we have is all gifts of others, and usually they are. And so. And particularly some of the gifts we can pass on we don't become deprived of it when we give it. We become even more richer. We become even richer. Talking about generosity for such good causes, and then being able to decide to give. Not only decide to give, but give without delay, when it is needed. And one knows one can give, but one just feels, oh no, I will need this. Oh, I will need this. I will need this when I'm dead. And one starts thinking when one will need, but actually need to be given is there, but it doesn't see it. So the one who sees the doctrines and its importance will see that's the really place to live, we had the announcement of the temple a couple of days ago. One Tibetan family rang me, the other day. They said, "Oh, how are we going to donate? How can we donate this? We want to do as quickly as possible, but we don't have very much. But how can we do it?" They were really, really interested. Straight away. The whole attitude, the way people approach it, it's because they heard only 2 days ago. They straight away trying to ring me. I said, "Don't ring me. Ring Rachel." They usually give it to the Lama. Be careful. And thankfully, this Lama says, "Please go to the treasurer." Huh? The other ones go for this. They slowly fall down in his pocket. So this is very, very. They'll cause holes. And amazing. So just to hear that way, the attitude is about saying, "Oh, you have to build in 1 year. You need these things and this in the first year," because they have this kind of attitude. They believe in these things. This whole idea of giving for what is most important. It's very inspiring. It's just like that. It said, the lowly people's bad thoughts will be reversed. Other people say, "Oh, people are not generous." People are really generous. Just thinking like that is already inspires you, and it will inspire others to give, and so on. When all possession of a previous monarch come under the control of the successor, or you can say, when all possession of your mother or the father, or your last 20, 30 years of working and saving, comes under the control of this person who now and isn't daring to use, or what use are they then for the former monarch? He knows that you also kept. What did you do with thy left behind? You still have not used it. Oh, he probably will be very, very disappointed. Oh gosh, he still kept it in that very packet. Never even opened. He'd be disappointed. If he sees, "Oh, you did that with that. Oh, thank you. Oh, with that thing I left for you, you did this," and they'd be delighted, isn't it? But they say, "No, it's still unopened." Unopened and stacked on each other, and for practice, happiness or fame. So what is it? Famous that you didn't give. Famous that you have died wealthy. So he says, what would be the benefit of your past young? When you were young, you save. I'll need it when I get old, and all those years one actually hasn't put to good use at all. If we were to tell the 20-year-old, look, our past, our 20-year-old, they say, "Oh gosh, you didn't use anything for yourself or give anything. You're still keeping this," and of course they probably will be disappointed. This is what it's talking about. Is it this? Did you keep this to break a record or something? Guinness Book of Record that you never used the gift? or a kind of a practice like the mouse do. Mouse do the stealing, but they actually never eat them. and then all the underground is full of things they stole, and they hardly ate much, and a little bit on the way back or way to they ate, but most of it's hoarding. Jungben no ni chiwada, Sakya Pandita says, it's all hoarded wealth. Will be wasted like the mouse that gathers it. So kings are usually that. Kings usually have particular storerooms, hidden storerooms, secret storerooms, secret even from the prince, secret even from this. They go secret bank account these days, all in Switzerland. All the people, and they say in China, all these wealthy, all the leaders have the secret bank account, all in Swiss bank account or whatever, because their own country is a bit difficult to keep, Yeah, so they're definitely born hungry ghosts. There's no doubt about that, wealthy and miserly are born hungry ghosts. Those who do these kind of good deeds are born with great, themselves in happy situations. They have power to benefit others. They promote benefit to others, and so on. So in many ways, Nagarjuna was telling to King Gautamiputra, he says, don't create causes for your rebirth as a hungry ghost 100 times, if you do this. But if you start giving, even those people who are a little bit jealous, a little bit envious, a little bit upset with you, they will be happy that what you are doing. Generosity completely makes the illusory, ephemeral possessions meaningful. But when we know it needs to be given, and we have the things to give, and we did not delay to give, and as they say, we give when it's needed, for what it is for needed, and if the cause is particularly for the doctrine or for the benefit of others, then that is the most fitting cause to give for. Through using wealth, there's happiness here and in this life. So Nagarjuna says that if you practice wealth with generosity, you will be healthy this life, and you will be wealthy next life. And quite a lot of people's happiness these days are because they are practicing giving. They're giving time, they're giving help. I'm sure they're giving many other things too. They're giving money, they're giving ideas, they're giving assistance. Those who are doing that, they're really happy. Those who don't do much either for themselves or others, then they feel really useless. And then what they have got no use. And what they have, they also misuse for things they don't need. And for that they wouldn't hesitate. But for good things, they really hesitate. And then in the meantime, they're miserable. And even if they die, they will be miserable. Because the karma of that was very corrosive. Karma of hoarding is very corrosive. And people won't remember you as a good person if you didn't give. They say, oh, he has this much, but he doesn't give anything. And then of course, that is very bad. If people say if people know that you are miserly, then this brings a lot of misery. That brings a lot of misery. People don't have to tell us you're a miserable person. We're already miserable because the miserliness itself creates that experience. But the generous person is not poor in happiness. Generous person, the power of that is when you're generous, something seems to come to you just as quickly from least expected places. It's amazing how the law of karma is how it turns. Through giving, there's happiness in the future. Yeah, and even small things. Even though you have very small things, you will be very happy. Some people have not much in this life, which is a great blessing because then they're still happy, you can see. They're still happy with those few things. Others are suffering with the destitution. But others are even suffering when they're wealthy. So both wealthy and destitute are equally miserable. So that says something about the wealth being not the cause of happiness, isn't it? But only mental generosity, gratitude. Oh, I have precious human rebirth. I live in a beautiful country. If we start thinking like that, that's more wealth than actual individually saying how much I have in my bank account and things like that. It's really, we're talking about how to. This is royal policy. It looks like human policy to me. He's writing to the king, but actually, this should be our policy. What to do with our haves and do not haves. Even you don't have this, but you still have gratitude. You have contentment. You have freedom. You have dharma. You have your mom or your husband or your daughter or your grandchildren or even even say your relationship with your ex hasn't really lasted long, but you still got a beautiful children. Think like that. It's really true. It's true. And even you have no children. You rejoice all the beautiful other children. Your sister's children, or grandchildren. It's really good. So it doesn't have to be you don't have to cry and weep to give birth. That's good. You still can, have adopted sons. Those Brad Pitt's ex-wife did so many adoptions. When you want to give, it doesn't have to be your biological child. She has colorful children. All the children are very colorful because you basically choose. And if you're generous, it doesn't have to be your children. It doesn't have to have if the husband doesn't give you happiness, children does, So, but then we should know the husband gave you the children, so to give him a break. So, we should draw some comfort like that. Then there's no enmity. Then you don't think, my marriage failed, and then it's like a curse, and as that's kind of terrible thing that shouldn't happen, and they start like that. Then, then everybody who has those will be top of the moon. No. Some of them had terrible relationship. They really wish it broke, but they never dared to break. So they were basically trapped. They didn't have the daring mind to set themselves or other free, and then it was toxic. And actually, so they never actually have a chance to rejoice other things because the pressure of their relatives. Quite a lot of people in the old days, they are not breaking because of pressures of families and so on. You see what I mean? Some with the good reasons. You just have to be patient for at least certain years until you're young, or at least reasonably grown up. If you pull one way or another to each other, and just because you don't get on with the one adult, and all the youngs are just feel completely, split with a lot of heart, and then of course they're angry and they're friendly towards this, but not with the other. Then you can see how. Then it's the rest of life is misery. It brings only sadness. And so that's why, it's good to know what is the cause of misery that we can do now. We don't need to do now. And what is the cause of happiness in the future or very soon if we do now. That is real right living, From wasting it without using it or giving it away, there is only misery. So basically, the thing in your possession, if you're neither using it for yourself nor giving it away, is occupying your room and your space, and that has just made yourself like a prisoner, and you're not even free to go anywhere. You completely have to be there. So therefore, there's only misery. There's only misery of worry. Daytime misery, nighttime misery. If you go somewhere misery, worry about. How could there be happiness? There's no happiness because people got too much things. They're not free to practice freedom. They're not free to practice freedom because they're completely attached. They just snowed under. And if you have no idea, Shantideva says very eloquently, at the beginning, the wealth is cause of all your hopes and promises, but you enslave yourself like a faithful slave, as if the master will make him happy, No slaves are ever happy, like that. So the material things that one possesses are like an ungrateful master. It doesn't have a mind of its own saying, you should give up me because I'm not going to be very useful for you. It looks like, the more it keeps, the more it doesn't move, And even in modern economy, if the money is not moving, it's stagnant. It's stale. It's stale economy. It doesn't generate. So money shouldn't be sitting idle. They call investment, But this is talking about real investment. This is real spiritual investment for happiness. What kind of investment is investment that doesn't produce happiness? Even though the number has increased, but the mental happiness has decreased. That's not investment. Investment is really, they say, if they practice generosity, that's real investment. Temporarily it benefits others, and in the future, you don't even have to worry. You just have this amazing, liberated mind where it's going to come. You're not even worried. Others are generous. Because everything you gave also is not yours. It's others gave you. So you're only giving other people's things. And with reasonable kind of lawfulness, maybe. Some people giving that are not theirs. Not even legally theirs. They stole. Themselves. Yeah, so they say that. So sometimes people don't get benefit from things they receive because the thing they got was bad. Some things don't benefit. It just disappears in no way. It didn't benefit anybody. It is no trace to be searched. It hasn't got nothing to show. Why? Because at the thing people gave, or with the intent they gave, or those people who didn't manage very well, then of course irresponsible. That just fizzles away. But those who give with good intent, even small, that's why we want the people. As many people give little, as many people's drops of good is much better than big lumps by one or two people, and then they think they have a big say on that. That's dangerous. So when people are expecting something, whether they should or shouldn't, of course we can't tell them, but people tend to have a natural tendency that if I give this, I want this much back. And that's not investment. That's entrapment. Investment and entrapment is two different things. There could be, because of lack of power while dying, meaning that when we die, we are completely powerless. Not even the spoon, not even the favorite your things you can take with it. You're completely powerless. Slowly, the jewelry you should have given to your daughter 2 years ago. She would have happy. She would have. No, she'll open the casket, take it away. No power to say, no, you can't wear it. But looking from the graveyard, she doesn't deserve this. Become hungry ghost. That's really true, Then born in the house, then like haunting the house. Really, this is not fairy tale. This actually happens. And some are born as ungrateful grandchildren. They're born grandparents, but born there. And very difficult to please. You love them, but they are become. If you are generous, of course it's good, but often, the karma of the resenter who was born with that attachment, they're born in a near their dear family, and they will always bring a lot of sufferings, because it's not the child karma. It's child karma, not only child, but we also, don't have gratitude. Oh, this is my mother's heirloom, poor thing. She put sweat and teared so many years to make you live this for me. I should put this good use in her honor and for the benefit of others. We start doing this. Then before she reborn, they say the merit will lighten her burden. That's why in Tibetan Buddhism it's a very big culture to, dispense as much. Even people take loans. To free the spirit. People take loans to do good charity, Really. They make tankas, statues, always. That's why we got a lot of tankas in the Tibetan homes, because they're all afraid
that the deceased will be stuck, Deceased will be stuck, and they usually are post-stuck because they don't have a lot of knowledge and wisdom, so they die. Some of them with attachment, not with anger necessarily. They just care that they're young so much out of attachment, and their attachment become a cause of this heavy energy that associate with the family. And there's some death follow a lot of disasters. Why? Because the deceased have a lot of unresolved issues. Without wisdom, and even though attached, there's no compassion, no wisdom, and then things they have left behind are actually now it's like a undigestible. They become like they're just almost like they call deceased estate. They say even in the West they say deceased estate. They sort of hesitate what they're going to do. Deceased estate, they sell it cheap or whatever. Why? Because it usually follows this very spiteful mind that's clinging, This is in Buddhist teachings are people afraid that if they don't do the meritorious things, it will harm the deceased, And then harm themselves, of course, because the karma is so complex. Because all the things they left behind, usually parent, is because they work so hard, they're not too use for them, and they still really didn't intend to die that early, and they thought they could still do something, but then they never end up actually giving, and so usually when somebody dies, there's so much they have left behind, and it's a mess, and then particularly if there are few kids, it becomes cause of discord. It becomes cause of fighting, and brothers are no longer brothers. They are hated enemies, and so on. But if there's anybody who has a good reason to listen to this, and they dispense them well and early, there will be many happy people, and they rejoice. And they also will probably do that. Because we need to create a culture of that system. And then actually the benefit and merit will be copied, because when people know it's good, they will rejoice. They will do that. But when there's a whole materialistic society, is not like that. Parents are so after kids become 18, they think it's them. There's me. They charge rent to the kids. They're really having a hard time. Their school and universities, and they're so hard. And parent is maybe still paying mortgage, but they charge rent, and then create tension between them, and then there is no generosity, But in the end, they have to leave all of that to the kids anyway. So right from the very beginning, why don't remove the tensions by generosity, by love? It's beautiful. Even if you die with a lot of sort of half-paid mortgage, that's okay. Let the kid pay, because at least they got the rest of the house. I have to pay a mortgage. You got to help me to pay these. When she didn't move, you also were paying. So what are you talking about? You were paying by yourself when the daughter or son didn't move in. So what are you talking about?
What about teaching your child independence?
I don't think there's real independence. To take responsibility, yes.
Won't you make it too easy for them if you pay for everything for
Sure, yeah. Well, if it's quite different thing being skillful so that we don't spoil them. That's a good thing. But being generous is a totally another. People who are generous never have to worry about that aspect.
I find that when I was growing up, I used to earn $100 a week, and my mother would take $60 for rent. And I did all the cooking, all the cleaning, everything, the gardening, everything. And we decided with our sons that they weren't going to pay rent, but they have to pay for their phone. They have to, if they want to go out, they pay for that. If they want something special, they've got to realise that is something they're going to have to do. But I know people whose parents give them, brand new Land Rovers and are paying their phone bills and the kids are 27. And I just don't understand it. It's not helping. helping anyone.
Sure, yeah. Of course, they say that even generosity without skillfulness is not generosity. It spoils them, Sure, so this generosity have to have wisdom, but if the kind of meanness is there from within one's own side, then even one is giving, they don't feel they got anything. They so look they only know the meanness of it. If they know that you really do give them when they need, but you're really, really strict with what you wouldn't give because they'll waste or whatever, and then they start earning respect because what they really need, you wouldn't be mean or whatever, even whatever they are, because it's good to be able to help someone like one's children when they really want. They can't talk to the others saying, can you help me? My dad wouldn't, and then, oh, my mom wouldn't, even though they can. Then, of course, slowly the tension grows. They become less and less grateful. They don't remember all the things they gave you. You gave already, They only remember what you didn't, And it's amazing, amazing experience. I think life is beautiful when you have those people in your life, But if you don't have much responsibility to somebody, then of course it is in many ways plain sailing, but in many ways also there's not a lot of challenge because you don't have a lot of challenge. But then you can still extend your hand generosity to other things, isn't it? You're doing other areas. You're doing this, without any kind of obligatory generosity, because most parents are very, very obliged to do. Their blood, their flesh just hurts if they don't. So the children are kind of karma of the parent is quite heavy and in many ways very, very beautiful. It really teaches you. She thought you were generous, but. Really? Is that your generosity? It becoming a cause of conflict now. So it can't be generosity. Generosity become cause of conflict. It's definitely there was something was not quite right in the intent or whatever it was. And it's just one has to see how can we not give that is going to cause more strife and so on. So it's, I suppose, in as a practitioner of Dharma, one gives with a good intent, gives skillfully, and then we just let it go. But those we don't give, we don't have to think that I didn't give, because we must have reason not to give. One should honor that as well. Those we give, if we resent it, and you took that, you didn't do anything, so we just barking at them. They wish they didn't take it. So we think we gave, but later on we say they took. see, why are we using took words? The children thought we gave, but they are now told they took. Almost without giving them, and they will feel awful, They will feel awful. You just took. Yes, so the words are very careful. Yeah. Being able to understand that, because of lack of power of doing anything while dying, you will be unable to make donation by way of your ministers. Yeah, by way. Who will shamelessly lose affection for you, and because then the minister will actually say, oh, gosh, he's amassed this much filthy. We don't even know what to do with this, who to give, who not to give. And so if the will executor will be really problematic, Often the person who executes the will become the center of most of the conflict, unless he's very skillful to make everybody happy, and forget to take any share for himself. It will be very good. So that was the story, story of the kings. Initially in Buddhism, so they say everybody was equal, nobody owned anything, everybody shared as nothing was anybody's, everybody shared, and they never knew how to keep for themselves or for tomorrow. And then when everybody starts saying it's mine, they start marking mine, and then the conflict arose, the fight broke, And then they asked a wise person to resolve this, and then he came and tried to resolve the conflict. And so, when all the people were there, he's also one of the people, So he put portion for everybody, and everybody's very happy because everybody got equal, But he forgot to put for himself. Then everybody was inspired, He never even thought for himself. He gave everything to them equally, and they have no problem in between. Then they all gave their half to him, so he ended up giving whole half of everything. That's how the kings got wealthy. Then he became the king. That's the story of how the people made the ruler. And so initially it was very good. The kings got very good start, Most people selflessly work for them. Then when they get honored very much, then their selflessness become slowly corroded, and then got wasted away. So shamelessly lose affection for you, and will seek to please the new monarch. Yeah, then they will try to please the new monarch, and so they become kind of incessant sort of worshippers to the monarch, and in the meantime the monarch isn't giving very much to his subject. Hence, while in good health, telling to the king, why are you in a good health, in a good state of mind, being able to hear this, create foundation of doctrine immediately with all your wealth. So he's saying, go and do something useful with your wealth without any delay and procrastination. If you are living amidst the causes of death, like a lamp standing in a breeze. He says, your life maybe looks strong because this lamp has got beautiful oil container, and the wick is strong, and maybe the lamp itself is golden and so on. But how can you guarantee it will burn long because it's a golden, or because it got a strong wick? But where it is burning is in the middle of a breeze, middle of a windy place, So nobody's life is that reliable to live long. Or, you can never say I'm strong. You can never say I can run fast. You can never say I've got a lot of friends. You can never say I can argue. With death, nothing can ransom it. So therefore, why you hesitate to practice this giving while you're alive, and why you wanted to put it off? Immediately, you will become completely wealthless. You can't even take your own body, let alone anything that you think they are yours, because they are most of the wealth that you have probably will become cause of death too. A lot of people died because of the wealth. They're guarding their wealth, fighting for the wealth. They even killed their brother for wealth. It's ridiculous. For power, they kill their rival brothers. People do awful things when the power is hungry. When they're so hungry, they don't even know what they're doing. That is karma. And so also you should maintain other centers of doctrine established by previous kings. Meaning, if you don't necessarily have to create new ones, if they are created by others, go and assist them to continue that. All the temples and so forth as they were before. Renovate them, maintain them, promote the activities that are purpose of the building of those things. So it's talking about maintaining the very activities and objectives of other institutions that are there, and promote them. So do not let them idle standing there. Yeah, I think that's that's probably very important. But sometimes building a lot of buildings, but no activities that actually the building is built for. So then it's That's what Dzongsa Khyentse said in India during the enthronement ceremony. He says, all of us building big monasteries, big statues, but we are not really building people. He said, we are not really building the people. We are only keeping some kind of rituals and forms of these things. We are not really actually making people to grow, and we're keeping all system. He says, teaching people how to fold kathas and make sweet rice, this sort of these. He says, can't we do something a little bit more innovatively useful than just teaching these old cultures and help others to grow? It's very creative thinking. I think that's what it. I had a meeting today with Dalai Lama's representative, and he says this year they are feeding 300 homeless people in Sydney to celebrate His Holiness Dalai Lama's birthday. So I said, really? So I said, yeah. So that's what he's doing. I said, that's good. That's good. Because he says His Holiness wants us to do these sort of things, but nobody's doing it. We are always doing other things. Of course, they can do more than that, more than that. But does it have to be only in Sydney? I said, no. He says, we want to go there. So I said, why don't you do in Canberra? Because why you live in Canberra? I said, there's also homeless in Canberra. Very cold here. Yeah. He said, no, Bill Cruz do this sort of thing, and they want to combine the effort together, because he probably does that all the time anyway. That's what churches do during Easters and so on. They feed a lot of hungry people all the time. It's nothing Christian about it. They do it all the time. So we can learn a lot from that. Feeding the hungry is quite a Christian charity, and Buddhist is different. They feed everybody on the temple, so everybody get fed. They don't go in the street to. They change the money, and the small changes give everybody 50 paisa or something like that. So if everybody gave 50 paisa to every beggar, then they end up being about $30 a day or something. That's pretty good income for doing nothing. Got a lot of them really go home with big sacks of money. You wouldn't believe in Bodh Gaya how many are professional beggars because people give so much. And the number of pilgrims and how they're all obliged by their pilgrimage. Pilgrimage means just go and empty your wallet, And most people, when they travel, they think about what I will spend for me. And those traditional pilgrims, they don't do that. They sleep on floor. They sleep under trees. They rough up. But the money they take, they try to give to the poor. And that used to be all pilgrimage, pilgrimage. And in many ways, some people do expect to rough up a little bit on pilgrimage. We used to stay below three sort of star hotels in the early we started, but Australians are very delicate. Very delicate. They get sick very quickly, and their immune system and their body in India is difficult. So we have changed over the years. We always now stay above 4-star hotel, at least 4-star, nearly 5-star hotel, and then things get more and more comfortable. Yeah, it's really difficult. Difficult to risk your own comfort and give others. Karmapa is doing that. When the Kagyu Molam comes, he said nobody allowed to stay in hotels. He said everybody must sleep in tent. So he ordered this military-style tent. There are 10 monks in each tent. Just he gonna supervise. They all put properly and make sure they're all actually comfortable, very comfortable. Looks like a military type of thing. It's a little bit ostentatious sometimes, and then little flag, a little Kagyu flag on every tent. Looks a little bit Yeah, a little bit. That one doesn't look good. The flag's not necessary. Particularly, His Holiness Dalai Lama says, why does the Buddhist school have their own flag? He says, I can't get it. It's like that. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of thinking happening in the Buddhist world because they are in the cauldron of mixture of many culture, many spiritual values, learning from Christians, learning from, of course, everybody really. Of course, Dharma is there, infinite, but sometimes we don't move beyond way we used to do always and never try different ways. Very interesting. Yes, please have them attended by those. Have them attended by those who are not harmful, are virtuous. So, talking about the temple and monastery, have them attended by those who are not harmful to others, and are skillful and kind to the visitors, and patient, non-competitive, and always diligent. So I mean, you have to select the residents. That's what it's talking about. Yeah, that's hard. That's hard. There are very few people who can do this sort of things. You know? In the old days, when all the students were novices and they totally rely on your generosity, food, clothes, and education, you can do that. Oh, you don't do this. You do this. You do this. You can, of course. Yeah, I think one gentleman he went to Plum Village and he felt really. You know, where they were treating the new sort of residents coming. He felt like, oh, I want to get out of here because all these finger wagging sort of strict kind of Asian nuns, like this Vietnamese kind of Buddhist nun type of thing, like this. He couldn't wait to get out of there because it's just because they want to discipline you to become like this by their list of things, you know, and I think that is quite difficult. You can't transplant some things from one tradition completely as you do. It's not going to go very well. So, but there's still some there, I was told. Some there. They say it's end up usually only Vietnamese nuns, sort of elderly nuns, who's good doing that. They train the others to do that. But he says others wouldn't last. So everybody's really trying various situations. Cause the blind, sick and lowly, the protectorless, the destitute, and the cripple equally to obtain food, drink without interruption. So this is talking about really doing people who are disadvantaged physically or emotionally, and who are physically blind and sick and lowly. And so usually these are objects of pity. Usually a lot of people help when they see someone like that, but try to deliberately create. And one Tibetan monk did this. His Holiness was so inspired. He came from Tibet just only 2 years ago. This is not now 2 years, but when he started doing this, he was meant to be studying in Sera to become geishas or whatever. You know, you all get sort of inspired to excel academically. You know, because he came straight from Tibet. You know, and in Tibet these days, you don't see this massive kind of poverty. You don't see them, you know. In the villages, things are simple, but not poverty. But when this monk saw in Delhi, he saw those shanty towns where kids were just scavenging the garbage, all these beautiful children in their early 15 or 20 or some in their early teens, they just every day just digging the garbage and try to make a living from that. And this monk just could not believe his eyes. And so he went and he didn't have much money himself, but he definitely took half a dozen of them with him to some restaurant and gave them food. And then he felt, gosh, what I'm doing in down in Sarah, you know. He felt what I'm doing, all these theories of Buddhism, you know. He says, I could just try to be useful, at least even to help these few people at a time, try to connect with some good people, and then he started doing that, you know. And he spent all his money, and when people heard what he was doing, that everybody helped him, of course. And then later on, His Holiness heard him. And then His Holiness Trust gave a huge amount of money. And there's like 400 kids have started a school where they have really, these are all Indian kids, you know. These are just parent orphans or broken families or bad friends. They're just wasting their life. And they weren't doing anything harmful. They just even don't know where to sleep, where their meal's going to come from, except scavenging in these garbage piles. This is now some years ago he's been doing this, His Holiness Office help. And recently they had they all came to His Holiness' place and had a conference. Quite a lot of the kids in their 17 years, they're giving talks in English that they believe in secular ethics and all these things. They're not Buddhists, but they are really secularly very much inspired to do the work of helping people like this from His Holiness and so on. So this is talking about, you know, generosity. Sometimes not necessarily being, of course, this is old text. This is written in the 2nd century, you know, so that's 1800 years ago. Those days, temples, this was very important, you know. But of course, if you create an institution that helps kids, homeless, or those people to find education and to do that, that is a temple, you know. Education is, of course, more important than just making people to pray or pray. And of course, that's what really talking about. So food, drink, you know, without interruption, because they're interrupted. They don't know where they go to garbage pile again, and they don't have time to do anything but to do that. And this is not just India. You wouldn't believe how many places in Asia it's just like that. Even in the West, we see them. Even in the West, we see them. They don't have to do that, but they still do that. People sleeping under big bridges, and I've never seen that in America, but in Seattle, this under big, you know, those highways, big bridges. Under the bridge, there's so many tents, camping tents, you know. They actually looks comfortable, looks like camp, but except it's fairly permanent, not just 1 or 2 nights. It's there every day, and they actually live there. They go to work. Some of them go to work. They can't afford to pay rent. With the kind of America, you wouldn't see how low the wages are. Some people, and you wouldn't believe that the coffees is just like $2, never $4.90. You know. People, when they see it come to Australia, they say, "Oh, things are very expensive here." I say, "Yeah, but so are people paid very well." You know, at least here, quite a lot of people get paid minimum. I don't know, whatever. You know, minimum wage. America minimum is sometimes a few dollars only. You know, an hour. So we're talking about the inequality, the wealth and suffering is just so widespread, and not just in third world countries, even first world countries. So we will conclude there, verse number 320, when Nagarjuna's advice to the king was to unlock his wealth storeroom and do some good with that for the benefit of the doctrine and benefit of all sentient beings. So we'll conclude here, dedication of merits. Page 11. And by the merit of these may we attain the state of omniscience, defeat the evil enemies that defile, and may I liberate all sentient beings from the samsara ocean, turbulent waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. By listening to the excellent and precious mind, our teachings,
Wherever boundless merit are acquired, may all sentient beings become precious and stainless vessels to retain the excellent precious line of teaching. May the supreme precious bodhicitta take birth who had not done so. Where it has been born, may it increase abundantly without degeneration.